Hello friends, let's crochet this beautiful hat together. We are going to start with this beautiful crochet ribbing stitch and then pair it with this lovely stitch called the Sedge stitch. It has become one of my favorite crochet stitches. It knits up so easily and it's such a beautiful pattern. It makes for this perfect hat. And of course we're going to add a fun pom-pom to the top. So let's get started and work on this together. Okay, so for this hat today, we are going to be using the Color Theory brand yarn. It's an 100% acrylic and it's a size 4 worsted weight yarn. We are also using a 4.5 millimeter size crochet hook. Now for the construction of this hat, what we're going to be doing is first working this ribbing crochet pattern. We're going to be working it back and forth like in this format, make it as long as will wrap around your head, and then we will pick up stitches along the edge of the ribbing and do the body of the hat in the sedge stitch. We'll seam it up at the side and then cinch it together at the top and add a pom-pom. So that's the basic construction of the hat. So we're going to get started with this folded over brim. So let's give a foundational chain first. For a folded over brim, I'm going to chain stitch 24 stitches. Now if you just want a regular straight brim that's not folded over, just cut that in half and only chain for 12. So let's chain for 24 stitches here. All right, I've got 24 chains in our foundation chain. Now to begin with this ribbing stitch, we are going to be doing just a series of a yarn over slip stitch for this entire duration of this ribbing. So to do that, what we're going to do is just give one extra chain because we want to skip that chain and start with the second chain from the hook. So to do a yarn over slip stitch, we're going to start with a yarn over, just as the name suggests, insert our hook within that stitch, bring that yarn through, and then just continue to bring that hook through the other 2 loops on your hook. So it's basically a slip stitch, but you start with a yarn over. So exactly as it states. So let's do that again. Yarn over, insert our hook, bring that yarn through, and just continue to bring it through the remainder 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert it, bring it through, and bring it through. Yarn over, insert it, bring it through, and bring it through. So let's do that until the end of this row. And then we'll go to row number 2, which is basically the same thing. Okay, here's our last stitch of this row. Now let's chain 1 and turn our work. Now we're going to continue to do that yarn over slip stitch for every single row of this ribbing, but from now on we're just going to make sure that we do that yarn over slip stitch through the back loop only. So instead of going through both legs of your stitch here, we're going to insert our hook only in that back loop only, and that's going to give it that ribbing effect that we want for the brim of our hat. So let's start with a yarn over, insert in that back loop only, bring that yarn through, and continue to bring through the rest of the loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert it, bring it through the remaining. Yarn over, insert it, bring it through, and bring it through. Let's continue to do this stitch for every single row of our ribbing brim of our hat. I will touch base with you when I get a little bit further along, and then we're going to talk about how long we want to make that brim to make it fit comfortably and be ready to do the sedge stitch for the body of the hat. Okay, got a couple more rows in. Let's just keep going here a little bit. I just want to remind you when you are finishing up your row to make sure you are grabbing that last stitch. That last stitch can be kind of wrapped around the corner a little bit, but you know it's that last little V with that last little cap of that V. So you'll know that that's the last stitch you want to pick up. And when you picked up that last stitch, chain 1 at the end of each round, and then turn your work and start with that second chain from the hook. So that's what you want to do at the end and start of each row. And we're going to do this for a number of rows, and you can always kind of measure as you go till the length of this hat or to this length of this brim fits around the circumference of your head. So you can always just kind of try it on around your head to make sure that it is nice and snugly fit. For this hat is kind of a medium size, more like a teen size hat. I did 60 rows. Now you're going to want to end up with the number of rows that is multiplied by 3, because that is the requirement for this sedge stitch. So this one I did 60 rows before I switched over to the sedge stitch. But for this hat, I'm going to make it a little bit larger for more of a women's small hat. So I'm going to do 63 rows, but you're going to always just want to do a multiple of 3 for the number of rows for your ribbing. All right, I've completed 63 rows of my ribbing, which is a multiple of 3 that fit comfortably around my head. Now, if you need to make yours a little bit bigger or smaller to fit your head, just add or subtract by a number of 3. So now what we're going to do is we are going to be picking up a stitch at the end of every single row of our ribbing. So I've got 63 rows. I'm going to pick up 63 stitches, and I'm going to just do that with a series of single crochets all the way down before we start with our sedge stitch. So let's get started by doing a chain 1. And then we're going to, like I said, pick up a stitch on every single edge of the row. So you can see here with our ribbing, I like to call them, I've got a series of ridges and a series of valleys, a valley and a ridge, valley and a ridge. So we're going to pick up a stitch in the valley and on the ridge, the valley and the ridge all the way down. So let's pick up our first stitch in this first valley here. We'll just pick up, go under a row of, go under a strand of yarn, do a single crochet. And now we'll pick up a stitch on the ridge by going through the yarn on the top of the ridge, doing a single crochet. Pick one up in the valley here again, and on the ridge. In the valley, and on the ridge. So let's do that to the end of the row, making sure that you've got 63 stitches picked up, or however many rows you did for your ribbing. And then once we get done with this row, we will jump into the sedge stitch. All right, I got 63 stitches picked up, and I counted them to make sure that I had picked up a stitch for every row. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And now we could begin to do the sedge stitch. Now this is just a 1 row repeat, so it's super easy. We are going to start our stitch on the very first chain of the next row, not the chain 1 that we did, but the next one. So it's basically the second chain from the hook. And we're going to do, for this very first stitch, a half double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, and in that first stitch, or that second chain from the hook, we're going to insert our hook, pick up our yarn, pull it through, then do a yarn over and pull through the 3 loops on our hook. That's the half double crochet. Now we're going to do a double crochet in that same stitch. So yarn over, insert in that same spot, yarn, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, a double crochet. All right, now we're going to skip 2 stitches. So skip, skip, and in this third stitch, we're actually going to start this one with a single crochet. So insert your hook, pull the yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we're going to do a half double crochet in that same spot. So yarn over, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Now again in that same stitch, we're going to do a double crochet. So yarn over, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's the series of stitches we're going to do every third stitch all the way across. So we're going to again skip 2, skip, skip, and in this stitch, the third stitch, we're going to do that single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet in that same stitch. So let's start with a single crochet, then do a half double crochet in that same stitch, yarn over, and a double crochet in that same stitch. All right, another one completed. Now we'll skip 2 again, skip, skip, and in this third stitch, let's do a single crochet, half double crochet, and a double crochet. And proceed all the way down, skipping 2 stitches. So every 3rd stitch, do the single, half, and double all the way across till we have 2 stitches left. Then I'll show you how to end this row. All right, I'm nearing the end of my row here, so I'm going to do that last series of stitches, skipping 2 into that 3rd stitch, single crochet, half, and a double. Now I should have 2 stitches left for the round, and on that very last stitch I am going to just do a single crochet. So end with a single crochet on that last stitch. Okay, so now our first row is complete, and we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and we will actually do the exact same thing on the others on this second row. But let me just show you what that looks like when we've got the first row completed below us. So we are going to again start with that second chain from the hook, not the turning chain, but the first full stitch here, and we will do a half double crochet. So we start with just a half and a double in that first stitch. And now we will again skip 2, and in that 3rd stitch do that series of a single crochet, half double crochet, and a double crochet. You can see when I skip 2 and that 3rd stitch is that stitch that's kind of right between these 2 little clusters. So that's how you're going to kind of know where that next stitch is, but it's still the same principle of skipping 2 stitches and in that 3rd stitch. But it's just a quick, easy way to visualize where that next stitch goes. So let's in that stitch, let's do that single crochet, half double crochet, and a double, and skip 2 again, and in that little small stitch, that 3rd one, we will do another single, half, and double. So now again, just repeat that same row again and again and again till we get to the end here. You're going to do your last series of stitches in that last little center between the clusters. You'll have 2 stitches remaining, and you'll do your last stitch with a single crochet, chain 1, turn, repeat, repeat, repeat until your hat measures about 11 inches from your foundation chain here. Now if you did not do a folded over brim and your ribbing is half the length, you will just need to do it for another 9 inches, or 9 inches from your edge there. Okay, so we're going to keep doing that single row till our hat measures the length that we need. You of course can put it on, measure it, and if you need to make, do a couple more rows to make it a little bit longer to fit your head, that will be fine as well. All right, I've worked on this sedge stitch till my hat is the length that it needs to be. Now what we're going to do is just do a couple rows of single crochet and some single crochet decreases just to kind of taper the top of the hat a little bit before we seam up the sides and cinch up the top. So let's first just do 1 complete row of single crochet. So let's chain 1, turn our work here, and start with our very first full stitch here, second stitch from the chain. We will just do single crochet all the way to the end of this round. Then the next couple rounds we'll do some decreases. All right, that row is complete. So now let's again chain 1 and turn, and now we will do some single crochet decreases. So what we're going to do is do that every 3rd stitch. So we're going to start here with a regular single crochet, and then these next 2 stitches we are going to combine into 1 stitch by doing a single crochet 2 together. So to do that, we will start our single crochet in this first stitch, insert it, pull the yarn through, and then before you finish that single crochet, you will insert your hook into the next stitch and pull that yarn through. So now you've got 3 loops on your hook. Do a yarn over and bring through all 3. So now we just did 1 decrease stitch. Now we'll go back to just doing a regular 1 single crochet, and then we'll do combine these two to do another decrease. So let's do another single crochet 2 together by inserting it into the first one, bring through, into the next one, bring it through, yarn over, bring through all 3. Then just do a single crochet. Let's do these 2 together. And we'll continue that rhythm till the end of this row, 1 and then 2 together. All right, let's chain 1 and turn again. And for this next row of decreases, we will just do don't do those single crochets 2 together all the way to the end of the row. So do a decrease with every 2 stitches. So let's do a decrease with this first one, the next 2 stitches, the next 2, and so forth all the way to the end of this round as well, or this row as well. All right, that row of decreases is complete now as well. So let's do one last chain, and then we can cut our yarn here. Give yourselves a little bit of a tail here, because we're going to use this tail to cinch up the top, and do a little sewing to close that top up. Okay, so now what we can do is put our sides together, and we will now seam along this side. So to do that, you will need to cut another piece of working yarn. Make sure that it's about 3 times the length of your project to give yourself enough yarn for the seaming. Let's use a darning needle here, and I like to start with the ribbing side here, and we're going to now seam up the edge. Now you can use whatever type of stitching method you'd like to use. I'm going to show you the one that I use. It's a fairly invisible stitch, so it works nicely for this hat. So let's just connect our corners here, going into the very first stitch of each corner. Bring the yarn through. And what we're going to do is go into this very next stitch from the back towards the center, and then go back into that first corner stitch you just used. Then we're going to go into the next stitch on this side and go back into the previous stitch that you just worked on the other side. And then the next stitch on the far side into the previous stitch you worked on the near side. And that's the stitch we're going to do all the way down. So you always go to the next stitch and then through the previous stitch that you worked. So let's do that all the way up the side of the hat. Then we will cinch it shut and add the pom-pom. All right, once your seam is complete, now we can cinch up the top to close the top. So let's grab this nice long tail that we have here, thread it onto our needle, and then we're just gonna do kind of a weaving in through these big gaps here of our last row of crochet, just in and out, just so we can pull it close when we're all the way around here. All right, once you get all the way around, just give it a nice tug to close that up. And now we're going to want to just secure that a little bit so it doesn't continue to get loose by just doing some stitches from the front of the hole to the other side. And give that a nice closure. All right, once you're satisfied with that, now we are going to attach the pom-pom to the hat. So to attach my pom-pom, I've got a faux fur pom-pom. It's got a nice little elastic band here, so we're going to use that, and by attaching it to our hat, and wrapping it around a button that we're going to sew onto the inside of our hat. So you just need any type of cheap plastic button, anything will do. It doesn't matter the color because it's going on the inside. So on the inside of your hat, we will want to place our button just off center a little bit from the very center of your hat, and sew this button on just like you would sew any other button to a garment. All right, once our button is on the inside of our hat, we will take your crochet hook and insert it towards the center of the hat, but kind of get it through some of the thicker parts of the yarn. And on the outside of your hat, we are going to grab the hook, or grab that elastic band and pull it through, and then just secure it by wrapping it around that button. And that's it. That's how you secure the pom-pom to the outside of your hat. And then just weave in the ends. When you are done, here's our seam on the side, fairly invisible, looks beautiful. And there you have your really fun hat with this beautiful sedge stitch and this ribbing stitch for the cuff of the hat. I hope you give this a try. It is really a fun and easy hat for the winter. If you do like this video, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you can receive future videos all about crochet tips and techniques, stitches, and interesting patterns, as well as knitting videos as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy crocheting.